Well, welcome back to Take Flight Garage. And if you can tell by the state that I'm in, it's been a stressful week. And I can't sleep. And I figured rather than wait until tomorrow night to try to shoot this video for Saturday, why not shoot it now? Because I got nothing else to do at the moment. That's not true. I have a billion things to do. I just don't have the means or the capability or the funds to do it. So what I can do is talk to a tiny little phone and then post it all over the internet. Okay, I'm done being dumb. Let's talk about how to shop for sellers. Because it's sort of overlooked because everyone always focuses on the car, right? But it's so funny how you can have one type of car. They made 163,000 of these. I might be getting the number wrong. Was it 163,000 that were just in the US alone? My point is they made a ton of these cars. And it's really funny how in the same span of time, right, if it's 3 decades, 4 decades, whatever it is now, just how different every single car can be based on the life that it's lived. So I'll give you my philosophy on shopping for cars, because to be honest with you, I actually hate it. After the accident happened, I was not looking forward to looking for another car. Car shopping sucks. And car shopping sucks because you are diving into the great unknown. And especially when you're buying a used car, you really are putting a lot of faith in, think about it, like a total of like a 10-hour period's worth of interaction, right? Between you finding an ad, researching it, and this is assuming you've already done your homework on the car, but looking into an ad, reading everything about the specific car that you find, trying to get as many details as you can, potentially calling the seller, and then scheduling a day to go look at a car. You look at it and it's obviously going to be different than what you saw in the photos. You're going to find things that you couldn't see that the camera didn't pick up. And you're going to meet this person, and depending on their attitude and what they know about the car, it's so funny. You can have the cleanest car in the world and it's almost uncomfortable or unsettling if like the person that you're buying from knows less about the car than you do, right? Now, a lot of people try to take advantage of that, and because they think whatever, the guy doesn't know what he has, I can try to get a super good deal on this. Here's like my philosophy, at least with buying stuff, is like I want someone to have either always wanted this car and who they either owned it and their time is done with it and they want it to go to a good home. So that's my first tip. Find someone who has a personal attachment to their car and really wants it to go to a good home, because that right there is going to be a huge indicator as to how well the car has been taken care of. Because if it's someone like any typical 944 owner who's super passionate, then they're going to do all this work to the car and clean it up and take it to Cars and Coffee, and even if it's been driven, that there's a ton of maintenance for it, right? Like 98% of this chassis behind me is new. I mean, aside from the body itself, the clutch was replaced, the paint was done 10 years ago. Well, actually 2011, so whatever math that is. But the rims are literally brand new, the tires are brand new, the suspension is brand new, the fuel pump's less than a year old, the battery is new, the alternators is new, time belts were recently done. They're at their they're almost at their service interval, but they've been replaced periodically, and there's paperwork that's showing that. The complete cooling system, the water pump, the coolant itself, the radiator, the fans, a lot of the electronics are new. Like everything is all new on my car, even though it's 40 years old and has seen 3 owners, right? So if I were looking at this car again from an ad perspective, I would be stoked. And again, depending on the price, but I personally would pay a little bit more for a car that's already had all this stuff done so that I wouldn't have to do it, right? And that was the difficulty of sourcing a car after the other one had been hit, because even though it wasn't in, Concord condition, I had done a ton of work to it. So to try to find something where I didn't have to do all that again, I mean, that's impossible, especially when you're going with like aftermarket stuff. But circling back to the main thing here is that you really want to find someone who's at least passionate and knows what they're doing and is replacing stuff for a reason, right? So for example, if I'm selling this car, you could ask me, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And aside from like an entire 7 years worth of YouTube videos for you to see everything, I can tell you, I can point to it, I can tell you why I did it, I can show you the receipts for why I have it. And that is, as a seller, what you want to see, because you can feel comfortable, like, okay, A, I'm buying from someone who sort of knows what they're doing. B, there's receipts and documentation that shows me dates of when stuff was done. So this person is organized. They are like very, I don't want to say particular, but they're very on top of their stuff, is what I'll say without swearing. But you kind of get what I'm saying. Somebody who's not just like, oh, I don't know, or they can't answer questions directly, and no, they just picked up the car from someone and they're just selling it for their aunt, or yeah, it was in the family and it got passed down to me and I don't really know what to do with it, so here I'm just kind of getting rid of it. Those are kind of huge red flags where I'm like, unless the car is a total steal, is 20,000 miles and is in perfect condition, and even then you're gonna have to do a ton of work to it, it's just something I would walk away from, right? And that's just on like the personality side of things, right? We haven't even talked about like how do they respond? Are they quick to respond? Are they thorough in their responses? That kind of stuff, you know what I mean? If you're messaging someone and it's kind of going back and forth and they're super vague and it's really sort of up in the air and left to you to sort of figure out, then again, how do you think that they treated the car, you know? And if you're a buyer, this is probably a great video for you to watch to understand how you should probably interact with sellers, right? Because all the time, as a seller, it's frustrated because, or excuse me, I said that backwards. As a seller, it's important for you to watch this video and kind of understand, the seller buyer's mentality. Because as a seller, you'll get people who message you and then don't respond, or give you some lowball stupid ass number and then don't respond. You know what I mean? So it's frustrating from both ends. So what really needs to happen, not only does the car need to be right, but there needs to be an alignment between buyer and between seller. And if all of those things line up, then you can have a pretty good feeling, a comfortable feeling between selling and buying the car and investing some money in a project car, an old 944 or whatever it is. And at the same time, you need to understand a point of like, there's no warranty that comes with this thing. Even if you're buying it from a dealer and they offer a warranty, I promise you the techs at this like mom and pop place that you're probably looking at that has a 944 that they took in on trade isn't gonna have the like furthest clue about these engines and the special attention and care that they need. A wrench can wrench. Anyone can loosen a bolt and put a bolt back on. But if you saw even the video that I posted earlier today, earlier in the week, talking about the process for the AC tensioning, right? Like that's a whole process just for tightening a serpentine belt. Most people are gonna throw the belt on, do the 45 method, whatever. Does it squeal? No, it's good. On this thing, if you mess that up, you're gonna bend your crank pulley. You're gonna cause a front main seal leak. You're gonna shear your AC compressor bolts. Like there's a lot of consequences for just sort of half-assing owning a 944 and half-assing working on it. So it's really, really imperative that you do your homework again on the seller, because if the person is just half-ass selling the car, that's probably how they owned it. It's not really professional or like a clean-cut way of saying it, but it's the best way I can think of to try to get it across to you as the viewer. Is like, it's not an easy thing to find, right? Because you think you'll find a good car, and you might find someone who's kind of good at hiding how much they don't know. So that's kind of something that you need to just pay attention to or whatever. And that ties into the second thing is people who try to, I don't want to say lie their way through a deal, but definitely manipulate, right? And what I mean by that is something like a car that needs a timing belt, okay? I see this all the time. Car needs a timing belt, and you ask the seller, hey, like, when was the last time the timing belt was done? Oh, well, it was done like 10 years ago, but it's got like no mileage on it. So it's good. You shouldn't even need to worry about it. I never worried about it. And then this is coming from someone who probably has a car that's got like fading paint on it, peeling clear coat, which, by the way, if you're buying a car with peeling clear coat, it's not original, and it's probably been hit at some point in its life unless it was resprayed. These didn't come with clear coat from the factory. So if you get a car that's peeling clear coat, there's damage there somewhere, whether it's from the 80s or the 90s, like it's been hit at some point, unless the entire car was resprayed, and then that's kind of a different story. So watch out for that. But timing belts, right? If they tell you that you don't need to worry about something that is very obviously a big giant concern with the car that can cost you a ton of money if it fails, I'd honestly just walk away from the deal. Because it's like, seriously, if somebody treats you like you're unintelligent and it's just whatever, and this is, I guess this is more geared towards the younger people who probably watch my videos, because this is something you're going to encounter, right? I encountered this as soon as I was 17 and I bought my first car, and I was taking it to the dealer for a couple things, whatever, and I had done homework on stuff, but I wasn't feeling comfortable doing the work on it. I was still new to wrenching. You are going to be treated like you don't know anything and you're an idiot, and basically the power is, it's the vibe that you're going to get is the adults in the room are talking. And so I don't care how old you are, if somebody talks to you that way or is treating you that way as part of a deal, as part of a sale, dude, just turn, like, I wouldn't even go through with it. Be like, nope, it's all good, I'll find a different car. Because I'm trying to figure out a way how to say it. It's not even just a respect thing. It's an understanding that, like, if you're a younger person, you probably don't know everything, and this is a learning experience for you. So it should be an exciting thing, right? It should be like a stoke thing, like, oh, here, make sure you do this. Like if you talk to a seller who's like, make sure you do this, and I did this because, you know, I did the timing belts because, you know, these can go bad, so there's a couple years left on it, but it's an easy job to do whenever you get ready to do it. Here's all the paperwork I have. You might want to look at this, you know, because they tend to go bad on these cars. For example, if someone's like, hey, you might want to look at getting a new DME, a modern, like if someone out there tells you that there's a modern DME, right? You might want to look at getting a new modern DME because these things fail all the time. If someone starts giving you info that's, I don't want to say like in a derogatory manner, but like in a, that's not in a condescending tone, but more of like a genuine, authentic, helpful tone, then that for me is a good sign, because it's like, okay, cool. It's passion, recognizing passion. That's really what it boils down to. That's what I've spent like 6 minutes trying to say. If you are encountering a seller who's just as passionate about the car as you are, and if you're a younger buyer and you're looking into it and they don't talk down to you in a way that insinuates that you're dumb, then that's obviously a good sign that the car, not only that the owner is probably a normal human being, but the car has been well sorted. So that's definitely something to just keep in mind, like just pay attention to. How do they talk to you and all that other kind of stuff. Because here's the thing, the 944 community is not really a gatekeeping one, right? Like the only gatekeeping I've ever seen with a 944 is people telling you to keep it original. And even then, because they made so many of them, everyone guts them out to make them into race cars, but nobody ever really civics out a 944, you know what I mean? Like no one ever, I mean, I haven't seen anyone throw like, well, that's not true, I've seen one or two cars. But the point I'm trying to say is like no one just throws like ridiculous rims, like a cheap, dumb sounding exhaust, and then, paints their cam tower bright purple like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain it. These cars are relatively unabused because the people who buy them genuinely love them and want to take care of them. And usually when it's being moved on, it's either from someone who just can't drive it enough, doesn't drive it as much as they should, and they want to see it out. I've seen a lot of people who it's just genuinely they have a ton of money and too much space that their money, or not enough space that their money can handle, and they need to move a car, and so they move on, or maybe they want to move into a different model, like move into a turbo or an S2 or something like that, or something evolves. That's typically the reason that people will sell their car. Because all of us, like when you, at least secondhand owners, when we buy them, we already buy them with the understanding that this isn't exactly a value proposition here. These cars are unloved. They're crazy expensive to maintain. And this is more of like a personal journey type thing. It's like really genuinely about the interaction between the owner and the car itself. It really doesn't have anything to do with markets or resale value or asset management. Like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, all we want to do is get in our cars and go for a drive. And then the other side of that crowd is like modifying just for the sake of modifying, just to have some fun. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the two real crowds in the 944 space. I have yet to come across anyone, aside from like maybe Bring a Trailer ads, where it's very, oh, look at my 87,000 mile 944. It's only 40 years old, but it's never been sat in. It's like, please give me 30 grand. You can give me 30 grand, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to deviate here for a little bit. I went to go look at one of the new Zs after work one day, and they were asking me what I would trade this in for. And I look at them and I'm like, if you give me 50 grand, I'll think about it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I wouldn't even take 50 for this car, you know? Like, I've played this in my head too, and it's so funny that it's something I had to process after the other car was hit. And I'm like, do I want another 944 or do I not want another 944? Because at the time, I was sort of thinking about maybe getting a Cayman. The price range between base 944s and Caymans at that time were close. And there's a couple other factors why I ended up not going with a Cayman, mainly because after searching through for half the country, a car found me versus me finding a car. But yeah, I don't think I could own another car unless I had one of these in the garage. Like, that's the level of passion. That's like, we're crazy. And it's so funny because you see the 911 guys, like once you get one, then they get another one, then they get another one, then they move on to this car, then they move on to that car, and it, you know, and it doesn't matter like if it's someone who's buying their first 911 or someone who's buying their 80th 911, that always ends up being the journey. And with the 944, I always typically find that, at least more often than not, there are cars coming from, or at least very close to, the original owners, right? So if you're not buying it directly from the original owner, you're probably buying it from the second or third person who bought it from that original owner. These things have like a way of getting under people's skin where you just like, you can't get rid of it. You know what I mean? And there's a massive hole that needs to be filled when there's one that's not there. And I see it all the time too. Even in comments, I get people who have said, oh, I used to own one, sold one, and I miss that car all the time or whatever. So yeah, I think it's just kind of a funny thing where it's like, the 944 has all these unique things about it, and it's even in the way that you buy the car, right? Because typically if you're going to go buy a car, you just check out that the car is okay. Is there a check engine light? There's no check engine light. The seats ripped? Are they not ripped? Is the paint faded? Like, it's all very clear cut, and you can look for specific things wrong with specific cars. But the thing that's different is that the 944 is an enthusiast car, and so you're buying it assuming that the person who owned it was an enthusiast. So they get to know their stuff. They need to be respectful, quick in their responses. They need to be helpful and enlightening and encouraging. And they also need to be organized, detailed, thorough in their explanations. Literally have receipts, like proof of receipts, um, all that kind of good stuff. And I think even like pay attention to this person's house. You know what I mean? I mean, my garage is all kind of messed up right now because it's still a work in progress, and because my car is halfway torn apart and I haven't had a chance to clean it. So don't judge me too much for what's going on in the background here. But like, if the person is selling the car, is their garage clean? Is everything kind of neat and tidy and organized? And even if it's a little kind of a work in progress, is there like a deliberate effort to clean things up and make it look neat and tidy? Is the car washed? That's a huge thing. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe people don't clean their cars out before they sell them. You know what I mean? Like, if the car isn't even washed, like if you get to the car and it's filthy and it's sitting outside and it's unprotected, then that car better be like under $5,000, because there's no way that you can expect someone to pay a decent amount of money on a car that's like, it's not even like, you're not even hiding the fact that you neglect it. You just openly don't care about it. So that is a clear indicator of, just the state that the car is in, and how well it's been taken care of, and the owner's intentions, right? Do they care about where this car is going, or are they just trying to get their money and whatever, see you around? So, yeah, I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to cover, just as far as the in regards to the owner or the seller and how that whole thing works. And as a buyer, all I can say is, look, unless you legitimately have the money, don't reach out to people. Don't test drive their cars. Don't do any of that. Just be respectful to one another and out there, and try to be normal and decent human beings. That's the best thing I can offer. I think the last bit of advice is, absolutely in no effing way, shape, or form should you ever put a deposit down on a car unless you're buying it off of eBay, sight unseen. If you're buying a car off of like Craigslist and someone is saying, well, I need a $5,000 deposit, and you have no written contract, you have no bill of sale, nothing. They're just saying, hey, give me $5,000 and I'll hold the car for you. Like, no way. That should be an obvious red flag to a lot of the older cats out there, but the younger generation, that's never a good sign. If someone is asking for money up front, don't do that. And that kind of goes hand in hand with paperwork, right? Make sure that the title is actually clean. You want pictures of the title in hand in the messages. You want to see that the VIN number on the title matches the VIN number on the car. If you can, do a Carfax, do whatever, see what you can find to pull up any sort of history on the car, because even if the car was in an accident in its earlier life, back before there was any sort of digital record keeping, you can at least find that, at least on these cars, you can definitely find that they're registered repeatedly, and they're kept up to date on the registration. That tells you that the car is out driving. Keep an eye on the odometer and the mileage, that the mileage sort of lines up with what the seller is asking. And again, if everything lines up and the car is clean, looks like it's well taken care of, and the buyer is super open and got nothing to hide, and they're willing to share paperwork and receipts, and they're helpful in answering questions, and you got a day scheduled up, even if that car has higher mileage, like 140, 150, even 160,000 miles, but it's a relatively good deal, I would even consider paying more for a car with higher mileage that has all of that stuff there, versus a car that has maybe 50 or 60,000 miles and then was sat for 25 years, So, yeah, I think that's all of the wisdom I can give as far as buying a car from, at least specifically buying a 944. I mean, all this stuff should be helpful in buying any car, depending on what it is, but to give you an example, when I bought the 83, I bought that from the original owners. That was it was their mom's car, and it was two brothers and their dad who were getting rid of it because they wanted to try to clean it up and they just couldn't. And so I ended up buying it. I bought that car from the original owners, so I have all the paperwork. In fact, behind me is the sorry, I was debating on getting it, but behind me is the original window sticker for that car. The original window sticker from 1982 or 80. Oh, it would have been 82 because I think they bought that car in October of 82, something like that. So, and I also have the original warranty paperwork for that car, which is rad. I wish I could get it for this one. But yeah, like stuff like that. If you see something like that and there's a binder, like a stack full of paperwork to go with the car, then you're probably in good hands, you know? And at that point, you assume the risk of buying a 944. So if you drive it off and a mirror glass falls off or something breaks on it, unless it's something serious that was like undisclosed by the seller that they knew about that they didn't tell you, then, you know, it's kind of on you to pick up the reins and keep that going, especially if the car was well taken care of. That's something that you assume as part of owning a 944. It's not just doing all the maintenance and stuff like that and whatever and modifying it. It's like keeping documented records, keeping the car clean, keeping the environment that it's in clean, maintaining it, you know, all that kind of stuff. That falls on you. That's all part of the ownership experience that... I don't know, just maintain like a diligence to it, you know? Just thinking about it, especially if you're a younger person, right? You're buying this car and this car has gone through 40 years of time. Like that's kind of a gnarly thing to think about, but this car has gone through 40 years of time and it's ended up with you. So it's kind of a special thing. It's a bit of a time capsule. It's a little piece of history, and just you want to keep it going as long as you can. So yeah, just stay away from people who ask you for money up front, who don't really know too much about the car, aren't really super invested in it, don't really care about it. Just, you'll be able to recognize when someone is pretty passionate about cars in general. So typically if you buy something like that, you'll be buying a pretty good deal. Dealers, that's a different story. I've never bought a car, 944 from a dealer, but yeah. Personally, I don't like dealers. That's just my thing. That's just me. But unless it's like a really rad dealer and they have a ton, like maybe they specialize in vintage Porsches or like 944s, 960, like all the transactional stuff, that's kind of a different story. But if it's like Carfax has an 86 944 automatic for $15,800, probably steer clear of that. So anyways, I think that's everything that I got that's like valuable. So if you think I missed something, or if you want to share an anecdote or whatever, leave that in the comments down below so that other people who find this video can go through and read your experiences and any other tips that you might have that I probably left out. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Hopefully things will sort of calm down here soon and we can keep going. And yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. I hope, as always, you guys found this helpful and informative. And I'll see you in the next one. Good luck out there.